We now have a very interesting situation in Palworld because an endgame resource is realistically farmable through breeding because of Whalaska and Whalaska Ignis. Coralum ore is the mega endgame grind because you need an insane amount of it, and there's no way of passively farming it. You can't just set up a mining station and get all the coralum, so people are looking into breeding since you can kind of get away with it. And that's why I'm saying that it's interesting, because that wasn't really possible for Hexalite, because if you want to get chromium, that's a huge dragon egg. So it takes a really long time to get 2 to 3 chromite, and it's semi-automatic, and there's also the expeditions, so you can get more chromite in a shorter amount of time through just sending pals on the expeditions, or, since you need to do a ton of Faebreak dungeons anyways, just bring a Smoky, and then make sure you get all the chromite in every dungeon, and you shouldn't have to worry. But here's where things get interesting with Whalaska, because it's a large egg. So that makes it a little more viable, and then that's what I'm going to be checking out in this video, if it's worth farming. If you enjoy, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts down below, because breeding systems, share all the knowledge you've got with those, because it's a pretty crazy thing to see if this is worth it or not. I'm also going to be checking other methods, best coralum farming in Palworld. And the weird thing is, Whalaska Ignis is a huge frozen egg, so you can only do this with Whalaska. So that's why my base is looking like this. Got a bee guard, that way we can replenish some honey. But I think the breeding base needs a lot of work because we got a massive change with this update, because now we just have a large egg incubator that doesn't need electricity. So you can just max it out, like have 7 breeding stations for whatever pal, for whatever resource you're going for. I'm also breeding Broloha, that way I can condense it, and then we have faster breeding. It's also not perfect. I don't have Nocturnal Philanthropist for faster breeding, but I just kind of want to see, like, okay, what's the viability on just investing a little bit, couple breeding stations into Coralum? Is it worth doing? And then does that mean, is it worth overdoing to have the fastest, best farming? So we can see that the huge frozen egg is going to be a little over 11 minutes for the electric incubator, and the large frozen egg is going to be just under 6 minutes. Now this is with the research, so if you're doing breeding, you need to do the kindling research to make it as fast as possible. And then for the non-electric one, so the huge egg is going to be over 23 minutes, the large egg is going to be over 11 minutes, but you're hatching 10 at a time per large incubator. So unless you're actually like planning on just like hyper scooping everything up every 6 minutes, I don't think you need the electric incubator anymore, and then you just put 2 of these for every breeding station. And it should be fine even with a condensed Broloha and Philanthropist, or if you're not keeping up, you just keep placing these down and eventually you hit parity. So that means you can also free up the space for another breeding station instead of having multiple electricity generating pals, because yeah, when these are maxed out, they actually consume a lot of electricity and it's hard for pals to keep up. Also, I'm thinking you don't really need a bee guard, that you just have it grazing in a different base. So like 1 electricity generating pal to run an oil rig and a disassembler is probably all you need, and then you have 7 breeding stations. And again, I'm going to be working on like an updated breeding guide, because I think that's it. And then every couple minutes, you're also running over here and resetting your expeditions to get chromite or other resources. And Splattering as partner skill is kind of tricky, because it's like, oh, we get 10% added to the drop, up to 15%. Does it stack? Yes, it does. And here's the more detailed explanation. Splattering and partner skills do stack, but it's a 10 to 15% chance to double. So it doesn't just give you 10 to 15% more items, and then you can only have 4 of them because you're taking one out, butchering, taking one out, butchering. So it's also a really slow process just to get a 60% chance or a 40% chance to double the items. That isn't worth it at all, because now it's no longer a semi-AFK or semi-automatic way of getting Coralum. You're actively just like butchering in a really tedious way, and probably by the time you're done, if you have 7 Philanthropist breeders, it's just time to start butchering some more. So you're better off just actively fishing salvages at that point, and then you get more Coralum. So let's butcher a Whalaska. There he goes. What do we get? 1 ice organ, 1 pal fluid, 3 Coralum. Now there's also like an angle here of like, oh, pal fluid farming. Sure, you can put a Kelpsie on a ranch, but this kind of doubles up on that, which is really nice. And we got 3 Coralum, so we hit the max amount. I need to breed out Destructive and Sickly from my entire thing. But yeah, there we go. So we can just put in a lot of pals, conveyor them in, scoop up all the resources, and then we get 32 Coralum for breaking down like a dozen of these guys. You can get 32 Coralum in 2 dredges with a full team of Gelroy. Okay, let's do some quick napkin math. So it takes roughly 690 seconds to hatch a full batch of eggs. And according to testing, 2 Philanthropists and a max Berloha is 1 minute 26 seconds. So that's going to be 86, which means we can get 8 eggs per egg hatching cycle. But it's going to be different than that because if I leave the base for more than 12 minutes, I'm coming back to more than 8 eggs, and then you can just put them between like multiple large hatchers. So it's not going to change the time too much. But let's say you can get 8 eggs per breeding station. Let's say we're going for max 7 breeding stations, and that's going to be like every 12 minutes, so times 5-ish. So we're getting 200 eggs per hour. Let's round that up to 300 eggs per hour, and we're getting like 2.5 Coralum each. 750 Coralum, mostly AFK. Now that's with full investment and craziness, but if you're just kind of like passively doing it, yeah, it could be 400, 500 Coralum an hour if you just like have all these breeding stations and you have it a bit more streamlined. So you're going to have to mess around with your organization and have the first couple of boxes empty. That way you can just like hatch all the pals at once, auto disassemble them, pick everything up, and then there you go, you got some Coralum. But I want to test if fishing is just better, because fishing high-level spots for the Whalaska is going to have a double effect. It's actually going to have a triple effect, because you get Coralum from fishing, you get Coralum from the Whalaska, and then you get Coralum from butchering it, and Jelliet, much like the Gelroy for the salvaging, is going to stack. So you can get multiple items from fishing. And if you have a ton of cavern mushrooms, might be worth making the alluring bait and then getting even more items from the fishing. So, but it's also one of those things where like, well, if I go fishing for an hour, come back with like 1,000 Coralum or something, and then I just pick up all the eggs and then hatch them in 12 minutes and then disassemble all them, it's gonna be another several hundred Coralum. So if you want to be like really efficient, really hyper endgame on the Coralum, having this breeding setup is good, but also you're gonna be breeding for other pals, condensing, maximum traits, potentially other items from breeding. So is it worth dedicating an entire base worth of productivity for 500 to 700 Coralum an hour? Let's find out. So we go to the top glacier and then we can fish around. So you want to look for the large spots that look like a generic fish. And that's another thing, like, this isn't going to be flawless. It's not like I can just sit here, camp this, and I can 100% nonstop catch Whalaska. No, you're like, also you can just find the Whalaska out here and kill them, and it's going to be the same effect. Or you can have the Ring of Mercy, catch them, and then butcher them. Now, fishing for Whalaska is going to be kind of weird because you're looking for these spots, but these spots can also have Azurobe Crest. However, if you get that, you can still roll Coralum on the fishing table, but it does take a little bit of time. That's why you want a Whalaska. And you can, instead of, it's one of those things like, well, instead of butchering Whalaska, you condense it, and then that's going to make the fishing minigame easier. But just having like a rank 2 Whalaska is going to be just fine. And see, there we go, we have an Azurobe Crest. How much Coralum do we get from that? 2. So we go from 48 to 50. But we're also getting other rewards. The loot table on fishing is really good, so just like camping fishing for an hour is worth it. And then we can run around. Also, like, once you're done fishing, or if there's only different kind of fish, make sure you shoot into the water so they despawn. That's going to force a respawn quicker. It can also be kind of slow and tedious finding all the fishing spots, resetting all the fishing spots. Kind of just want to walk between these 2 points, but there can also be fish spawning on the other side. Alright, let's see if we get anything good here. So, alluring bait onto the master fishing spot. Don't fail it. That's why we had the Whalaska, so we don't fail it, but that one was rough. Really, the strategy with fishing minigames is that you have to like keep clicking it. You can't just hold one way or another, so you have to kind of like be ready to catch a drastic movement. That was just an Azurobe Crest, and it wasn't even a Whalaska. 4 Coralum Ore. Dragonstone's pretty good. Giant Pal Soul's pretty good. And the loot table for the high-level fishing is pretty good. That you can just get legendary Hexalite stuff or the applied technique manuals. But if you just are only going for Coralum, then the salvage is going to be a lot better. 100% chance for 6 to 11 Coralum, and then if you have all the Gelroys, you can get much more than that. So you're getting Coralum quick, and it's a shorter minigame, so you're harvesting more than 1 per minute. Does cost like a little bit of hex life, but that doesn't really matter in the long run. If you just scoop up every salvage location, can you get 100 per hour? Are you averaging 15 each, so you're getting like 1500 Coralum that way? So it's like twice as much through active means than the breeding system. Now, personally, I think this is an excessive amount of work for just one resource, but then you think about the legendary charge rifle, and that's going to be over 1300 Coralum Ingots. So like 7,000 Coralum ore just for the weapon, and it cost Coralum Ingots to fire the shots for all the weapons. So if you already have the psychotic breeding setup and nothing is breeding, yeah, throw in the Whalaska. And that also kind of goes into like a whole breeding-based redesign and guide update because the mechanics have changed and now this. And then the large non-electric incubator kind of changes everything and makes it a lot more manageable. I think this is kind of a play. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. Yummy.